Hey guys! I've been thinking about ways that I have made my plant care a lot more manageable over the last couple of years, particularly the last few months. One of those ways is growing plants in water. Water is so easy to grow plants in, so I do think it's a great route to go if you don't have a lot of time to take care of all your plants. I do keep a lot of my plants in water, so I thought it might be helpful for some of you to hear what plant types I am currently keeping in water. Can you hear my baby in the background? So stay tuned to the end if you want some of my best tips for growing your plants in water and how to keep them in water indefinitely. Stay tuned to the end. But before we get into the plants, huge thank you to Skillshare for making today's video possible. Skillshare is an online platform that helps us continue our learning. I personally have been using Skillshare for over 2 years now, and I've learned so much. There are a variety of different categories to learn from with Skillshare, and I myself have learned about photography, productivity, animation. I am currently working through a ton of productivity courses on Skillshare. My favorite ones are taught by Thomas Frank. I think he lays out information very well and in a motivating way. He has a lot of productivity courses that I have learned from and will continue to learn from, but right now I'm currently doing Productivity for Creatives, Build a System that Brings Out Your Best. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy his classes and I've learned a lot. Highly recommend. So whether it be the Thomas Frank productivity course or an entirely different topic that interests you, right now is a great time to get started on Skillshare because the first 1,000 of you to click the link in my description box will get a free 1-month trial of Skillshare. Highly recommend giving it a go. Thank you so much, Skillshare. But let's get back into the plants. Okay, so like I said, growing plants in water is super easy because you just kind of stick them in water and they're pretty much good to go. Just top off the water every once in a while. You don't really have to worry too much about root rot or your plant drying out too much, of course. So you just have to top off the water, add some nutrients, and that's pretty much it. Of course, you can end up with rot, but we'll get into that later on in the video when I address a few more tips and tricks. Anyway, here are 10 plants that I keep in water and I think are really easy to keep in water. I am so sorry, my little dinosaur baby in the background, he's finding his voice. Okay, so plant number 1 that I recommend to keep in water, kind of surprising, and it is SANSEVERIA. So I don't know about any of you guys, but me personally, I do actually really struggle with SANSEVERIA in soil because I think I underwater them, which makes it difficult for them to not get root rot when it does come time to water, if that makes sense. I don't know how I worded that made sense, but yeah, so surprisingly, I do have a lot of success growing them in water. They really are super, super easy in water, and it takes out a lot of the guesswork for watering them. I know that one's kind of surprising, right? Next up is one that I don't think will come as a big surprise to you guys, and that is Syngonium. Water is actually my favorite way to grow Syngonium because I do find them to be a little bit finicky in soil, especially when it comes to watering, where I consider them an easy plant. If you're going to make a mistake with Syngonium, I do usually think it's with like the porosity, or yeah, is that the word? The porosity? Oh my gosh. I do think that Syngonium in soil can be a bit finicky because if the soil isn't airy enough or if it's too airy, you can run into some overwater or underwater issues. And again, just growing them in water gets rid of that dilemma, the watering dilemma, and they propagate really quickly in water. All right, next up is another one similar to Syngonium that I find are a fairly easy plant, but there can be like root rot, underwater, overwater issues, and that's actually Peperomia. Their root systems, for the most part, are super fine and like hair-like, super delicate. They are very easy to overwater and get root rot on them. So keeping them in water, again, gets rid of that issue. Yay, love that. I actually really struggle with Peperomia, but not if I grow them in water. Next up is another not very surprising one, and it is most pothos, or all pothos varieties really in my experience. So right now I do have golden pothos and neon pothos growing in water, doing really well. The ones you'll be seeing on screen are actually node propagations I've taken, and as you can see, they have really awesome roots, growing really well. I'm probably going to keep them in water forever, and they'll do great, actually, very great. This one I actually don't have growing in water at the moment, but it is peace lily, and I'm including this on the list because I do hear from a lot of you that peace lily are a plant you struggle with, or a lot of people seem to struggle with, and growing them in water is going to make it doable, I promise. So if you love the look of peace lily but kind of struggle with keeping them watered well enough in soil, then, you know, pluck that baby out of its soil and stick it in water, and I think it'll be a lot easier for you to manage. So it's definitely worth a go if peace lily are a plant type you want to get into, but just can't seem to keep them happy. This one is actually my favorite plant to grow in water, and it is MONSTERA. Oh, you know what? I actually have one right here that you guys saw me chop up in one of my videos. Look at those new roots growing. I don't want to pull it out too much because I don't want the water to get everywhere. Can you see those roots? It's growing some new water roots, yay! Anyway, yeah, MONSTERA, because they grow so fast in water and the roots usually are very thick and plump and fun to watch grow. I don't know, there's just something super satisfying about seeing the root systems of a MONSTERA plant grow, especially because they are very fast growers, and MONSTERA aren't difficult in soil in my opinion, and I don't think people really struggle with them, but it is really fun to be able to watch the root system so you can kind of get an idea of like what plants' root systems are doing. And I do think that helps with care. So like if you're able to keep a plant growing in water and watch its root system form and like see where it ends up crawling to, where it ends up growing, the secondary roots, all of that, I do think it's really beneficial like for our overall plant care knowledge. So yeah, MONSTERA. Next up are SCINDAPSUS plants, and I actually have a SCINDAPSUS plant in soil, and I also have some propagations growing in water, and I actually really enjoy growing them in water. So far, they've grown very easily and quickly. The roots look great, and I really haven't struggled with the watering routine of the SCINDAPSUS plant, but I know I get DMs from a lot of you guys on Instagram about your plant because the leaves wrinkle, the leaves curl if it's thirsty, but they also curl if it's overwatered as well. So I do think that where it can go either way, it can be confusing. So yeah, keeping it in water, you know it's watered. I keep saying that, but it's because it's true and it makes it so easy, so easy. No guesswork involved here. All right, this one is more of an uncommon plant, but you can see how big and beautiful my Philodendron MAMEI looks growing in water. It loves this. It's pushed out so many new leaves. It's growing so fast. Like, I don't even know where I'm going to keep this plant anymore because it's just growing so much more quickly, getting big a lot faster than I expected. So you guys, I have to be honest, this is a plant that I have killed twice. This is my third MAMEI plant, and now it's finally working. I cracked the code. If you struggle with this plant, just stick it in water and it'll grow probably, as most likely. Mine did. Next is Lucky Bamboo. Mine has never seen soil. It's never touched soil. It's never touched sphagnum moss. It literally just lives in this cup of water, happy as can be, growing awesome, looking great. And I know I'm just gonna throw it in here. I know Lucky Bamboo isn't actually bamboo. It is a type of Dracaena. So yeah, but it does really well in water, and like I love this plant because not only is it super low light, like it does better in low light than high light in my experience. I just fill this cup up every once in a while. Sometimes I forget and it just completely empties, and then I add more water into it and the plant is still fine. It's like been fine for a long time. So I'm very thankful for that, but it's an easy one, an awesome one. Great bathroom plant, I might add, especially dark bathroom. Okay, last up is Lemon Lime Philodendron, which again, this plant that I own has never touched soil or sphagnum moss. These are cuttings I took from my mom's plant, and this lives in Kai's room. So yeah, and this cute little llama planter, but it's grown really well in water. And even though this is a plant I wouldn't necessarily keep next to a south window if it were in soil, soil because I feel like I wouldn't be able to water it enough. It would dry out way too fast and probably end up burning to a crisp. Where I have it in water, I'm not worried about it drying out at all. And it has grown so well next to the south window. So that's kind of something to keep in mind too. If you want to keep plants in higher light, but they're plants that maybe wouldn't do as well in soil next to the window because they dry out too fast, or I don't know, whatever issue that could cause, keeping them in water next to high light tends to really make the plant do a lot better. So that is something to keep in mind. So I'm really pleased with this one in water. And isn't it pretty? The leaves like growing pink. Okay, so those are all of the plants that I currently have growing in water. If I missed any that you really recommend growing in water, then please leave a comment down below. But now more into some like care tips. Number one, I personally don't change out the entire water container every single time, every week or few weeks even. I do it probably every couple of months, but I do recommend doing that every once in a while for two reasons. So reason number one, this way you pull the plant out of the water and you can examine the roots and see if you're having any issues. Usually I don't have issues, especially on more like mature plants like this, but on newer propagations, you sometimes can end up with this like slimy coating on them that you really need to resolve, where it's going to spread and potentially kill your plant. So as long as you're like emptying out your container, pulling out the plant every few months, you're gonna be good. You're probably not gonna run into issues. And when you're pulling the plant out, might as well just empty out the old water in the container and fill it up with fresh water, and then also like scrub out the container pretty well. That's so much easier than having to weekly or bi-weekly or whatever guess if you need to water the plant, you know? And you can really keep a close watch on those roots, whereas you can't really do that in soil. On that same note, every once in a while, you are going to have to add nutrients to the water. Water doesn't have the nutrients plants need to grow, so you don't really have to worry about this if your plant doesn't have roots formed, like if they're fresh cuts or anything, but once it starts getting roots, you're really going to want to consider adding something to the water. You don't have to, but at some point your plant is going to stop growing. So I personally just use LIQUIDIRT. If you want to try out LIQUIDIRT, my code is HarleyG_25 for 25% off your order. LIQUIDIRT is so easy to just pour into the water really quick and like you're good to go. It's not only adding the nutrients it needs, but also topping off the water in the container. So it's kind of a twofer. Super, super easy. Highly recommend LIQUIDIRT. I'll have the link down below. And again, my code is HarleyG_25. But if you don't want to use that, I also have used the like powder nutrient. I use these for my hydroponically grown vegetables, but you can also use something like this as well. So those are two options of nutrients you can add. And then my last tip to help grow them in water is if your plant doesn't grow, if you have your plant in a big container and it's not sitting up the way you need it to, you can always add like sphagnum moss or even pebbles into the cup, where you'll then fill up the rest of the container with water, if that makes sense. Like just adding a little cushion around the plant of sphagnum moss can help to hold it up and give the roots kind of something to grab onto as they grow to help support itself. So yeah, I do think that that's really helpful. Totally not necessary. I do have a few plants that I grow this way. So the Dracaena is growing like this, and the MAMEI is growing like this as well. So 10 out of 10, recommend trying that. If you find that your plant is like tilting over or growing kind of weird in the water, it can help prop it up and give it more support to grow the way you want it to grow. I think that's everything, but if I missed any tips or if you have any additional information, plants you like to grow in water, or tips and tricks for growing plants in water, please leave a comment. Let's help each other out. And yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!